Now, just coming back to Seattle, you mentioned Andrew Wood of Mother Love Bone, and you had a relationship with him. I think I read it in the interview before that he might have been a fan of TKO back in the early days, or something along those lines. What other connections did you have with members, say, of... you were in the area at the same time as Queensryche, Nirvana, obviously Alice in Chains. What kind of connection did you have with a lot of these bands?
Well, I think during the year going into recording In Your Face, I think Jeff Tate's band with Chris DeGarmo, I think they might have gone by the name Myth.
Right, yep.
MYTH.
Yep.
And they were kind of a Judas Priest sounding kind of thing.
Yep.
And, they were just starting out, but they opened for TKO quite a bit whenever we were in Seattle. The connection to Andrew is he started out just kind of a fan kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I would see him at shows. But next thing I know, with War Babies, I'm managed by his manager.
Right.
And so I would see him at, kind of what we'd call family functions. So you'd have the guys from Mother Love Bone, the guys from Alice in Chains, and the guys from War Babies all partying at Kelly Curtis, the manager's house. And, we'd get to talking.
Yeah. And you had a good relationship with those grunge bands? I mean, because you've come from obviously much more of a hard rock background, and Seattle had obviously changed, the environment had changed musically, and I guess you were probably you were looked at as a bit of a legend in the area, so you had the respect from these bands, even though they were kind of against the hard rock, long hair thing. Did you find that awkward, or was that...
What's funny is, if you look at their past before being signed, they were all heavy metal guys.
Yeah.
Like Jerry Cantrell, if you Google around, you'll find him in 1988 with his hair ratted out with a ton of hairspray and some makeup and pursed lips.
Yeah.
Jeff out of Mother Love Bone, who eventually was in Pearl Jam.
Yep.
Jeff actually replaced the bass player in War Babies for about 7-8 months while they were putting together Pearl Jam between Mother and Love Bone and Pearl Jam.
Yep.
So Jeff was our bass player.
Wow.
And we'd have these hilarious conversations because during that period we were just surviving on live dates. We played in his hometown of Missoula, Montana, in some shithole.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll never forget that show." I go, "Why?" He goes, "That's when I decided I had to do this. I had to pursue my music career." And if you listen to the line in Run Out of Town on In Your Face,
yeah,
where I'm shouting out specific cities, one of them is Missoula, Montana.
Yes.
Because we were fired that night because a bunch of bikers showed up.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be there for 2 nights. We were given our walking papers. There was a midget biker doing somersaults in front of the stage. That's what I remember. But that's Jeff's connection to metal.
Wow.
Once grunge was officially happening, which of course was the end of War Babies.
Yep.
They took a step back from owning their metal roots. But Mike McCready makes no bones about his metallic roots.
Yep.
In fact, he does a lot of side projects because he's a phenomenal metal guitarist, you know, and I think he's got a governor on that kind of stuff, given what it is Pearl Jam does.
Yeah.
But he delivered some heavy-duty stuff on the Angels of Dresden tracks that he's played on.
Right, yep. Which I'm just about to get to.
Sorry.
No, you're right. No, the next question actually was, you've done a lot of projects over the years. I'm just trying to think. Was it Firing Squad? No, I've got that wrong. You did, was it?
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Between TKO
Yep.
and War Babies. So that literally, the money from that, because I had no medical insurance, literally the advance money from that paid for the birth of my son.
Wow.
They weren't going to let him out of the hospital without money.
Yep.
Which I found odd.
Wow. Gee, that's...
There were times I wish I could have renegotiated that deal.
So did you just release...
Bring him back.
Was it an EP or was that a full album?
It was an EP.
Right, okay, yep.
And technically what happened there is I paired up with Rick Pierce off the first album, and he brought to me Richard Stuverud, who later would be in War Babies, and we hammered, it was supposed to be my solo demo for Barry Coburn and Combat Relativity.
Yep.
And he loved the songs phenomenally. He goes, we're going to talk tomorrow. We'll talk about what kind of money you're looking at. And so the next day, I called him and I said, well, what kind of money are we talking? I said, well, according to the last TKO, we would be up to a $50,000 advance.
Yep.
And you could hear his jaw drop because he didn't want to pay that. He goes, let me think about it. And he hangs up. His vice president calls me. He goes, hey, I can tell you he's not going to do it, but you didn't hear it from me. You got to take this thing and run it to the nearest label.
Yep.
And so I did. And I took it to Music for Nations.
Yep.
So while I'm down in Hollywood months later, I happen to call Barry just to see if there's any chance he wants to put something together. He goes, hey, I just want to tell you, I really love that Suicide Squad. I said, oh, do you? He goes, you know, I own controlling rights of Music for Nations.
Yep. So it was released...
So he got it pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. And
through the back door.
So how many copies was released of that? It's very hard to get, isn't it?
It is. I think it's available on iTunes or CD Baby or something like that.
Okay, yep. Now, talking about your new project, or your latest project, Angels of Dresden, how did that all come about, and what gave you the bug to get back out there and play and of course record again?
Well, I had spent probably mid-90s to 2010 working with either doing TKO reunions or working with a guy named Bren Arns, who's he's an American artist. He's a front man for a band called Flip. They were on Hollywood Records.
Yeah.
We kind of met in New York, and we're big fans of each other. So we've been writing. We put together a thing called American Standard, and we have probably 3 albums worth of material, but we've never released it. And I kind of got tired of just, I love to write, but I also love to play and get out and perform, and I also like it to go someplace. So Steve Gaynor, who I had met during my hiatus in Hollywood, contacted me and said, hey, I got some songs. And so I said, well, send me what you got, send me some riffs. And we started working over the phone and over the internet. And we finally put enough songs together that I flew down there. We went into the studio together with some guys and started laying them down. And I kind of felt like at this point in my career, I just want to do whatever it is I want to do.
Yep.
And nobody's going to tell me what to do, and that's how I roll.
Yep.
So the first thing I said is, this is what I hear in the chorus. But I hear Mike McCready doing it.
Right.
And so Steve says, well, can we get him? I said, let me try. So I got a hold of Mike. He said, absolutely. So all of a sudden, the scope of the band changed. And I realized over the years, I've collected a bunch of really talented friends.
Yeah.
And why not continue to have the band as a core base, but bring in some of these wonderful talents and put them to some use.
Yeah, yep.
And so we've had Mike. He co-wrote one tune with me. He's not playing on that one so far. He's definitely playing on two other tracks. I brought two of the original members of TKO in for the latest song, which is "Go Down Swingin'."
Yep.
And that's being released as we speak.
Awesome.
And the whole rule is it reminds me a little bit of Ringo Starr and his all-star band. I mean, it's kind of like Who Wants In.
Yep.
You know, and you can pick people that you have a good time with, but also make you happy with what they deliver.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of having a lineup that's together where you might not be happy one or two players, but keeping it open and having people come in and do bits and pieces probably made it a bit brighter, I guess, as far as the whole working relationship.
Well, traditional bands they're a pain in the ass to maintain.
Yes.
It's like a marriage.
Yep.
They're work.
Yeah.
A very few bands that are out there, have that perfect relationship, and I've never been able to nail that. It seems like as long as the money's flowing, everybody's getting along.
Yeah,
And the best lineups I've had where it's not about the money, it's you got to do it because of the song.
Yes, which is always the most important thing to me. I mean, I play as well, and me and my missus, we have the same drama keeping a lineup together because everyone's playing in so many different bands. It's really hard to get that tight union. But the songs are the most important thing, and I think a lot of people actually forget that. They're into everything else that's happening around them and not really concentrating so much on the actual creating the songs.
Yeah, I've always been able to attract tremendous players, but with that comes tremendous ego.
Yes.
And so the shelf life of keeping that together, it'll wear you out. And that's what I like about Angels of Dresden is there isn't enough time for people to wear on one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every night's the honeymoon.
Yeah. So is Angels of Dresden going to be released as a CD, like properly, or are you just going to keep it all pretty much through iTunes and internet-based?
We're going to release singles for a while.
Yep.
And then when the time's right, we're going to deliver the whole thing as an album.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. Now, one thing I've been wanting to ask you, I've been recently watching a lot of stuff on YouTube, early TKO stuff. You did it seemed like a TV show where you got on and you mime. Yeah, you know what I'm going to ask. I
know exactly what it was.
Yeah. Which I mean, apart from the fact that it's all miming, I actually really dig it. But you guys, well, especially you yourself, getting that interview, you kind of seemed like you didn't want to be there. And the guy kind of mentioned that he'd taken a couple of years to try and get you guys on board. And was there some kind of strange relationship going there, or were you just a bit young and kind of taking it as a joke?
I was taking it as a joke. Keep in mind, video itself, when that was recorded, was a brand new thing.
Yep.
And I hated it.
Yep.
I hated the whole concept. I hate photo sessions.
Yep.
I like to play.
Yep.
I like to perform, but not so much in front of a camera. I like people.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I wanted out of there as fast as I could.
Yeah.
No question about it.
It's funny because he's standing there with you guys in front of the drum kit, and he's talking you guys up. He obviously loves you guys, and you're kind of standing back looking at your bass player and having a bit of a giggle, and I actually found it quite amusing.
He was also a booking agent.
Right, okay.
And he had all the shithole venues around the Northwest.
Yep.
So you kind of had to be nice to him and do his show, and I agreed to do it. And I howled when I found that on YouTube.
So what took you guys so long to get on his show? Did you just avoid it, or what was the deal?
Yeah, we avoided it because it actually was filled with cheesy bands. You know, and I keep in mind Evan, the bass player, and I had, we'd been through major stuff. Doing 80,000 seaters, that kind of stuff. And Adam and Gary, I think Adam was 17 at the time.
Yeah, they were both very young,
and Gary was too, and they'd never done anything. So to them, being on some dumbass's local access television show was big stuff.
Yeah. Wow, it was funny watching it, but now that I've spoken to you, I can understand why it come across the way it did. But yeah. So you guys did no video clips at all for any of the TKO stuff?
There's some online stuff, but very little live stuff. I think there's a reunion that's in there that was from the 90s, and we're in some shithole playing, and I think it's a stage that's about 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
And some guy gets up to go take a piss in the middle of the filming of it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now,
there's little snippets of it.
Yeah, I've been checking out quite a lot over the last week. I've noticed through different time periods, Adam Brennan came back into the fold. Was that more of a coincidence of timing, or because I know you guys were you had a love-hate relationship. He wanted to be kind of a front man as well, and obviously you're the singer, but with the reunion shows, was it hard to get back with Adam and work again, or was it seemed right at the time and then you realised not long into it that it wasn't right? How did that all kind of work out for you?
Whenever I get done with one of those, I would say to myself, this is why I stopped doing it.
Right. Yeah.
There was a lot of drug activity and just nonsense going on in his life that if you're standing anywhere close to him, you're going to be affected by it.
Right. Yeah. Wow. And I'm just trying to think with the. You've been talking about a TKO reforming at the moment. Is that going to have any of the original members or any of the past members in it?
Yeah, and Go Down Swinging, we pretty much used Rick Pierce, who's now in Q5.
Yep.
They just got signed to Frontier, I think.
Right, okay.
And they've been out playing a bunch of, like the Swedish Metal Fest and some big metal festival in Greece, and they've been doing all that kind of stuff, he and Evan. And Evan came in around the time of Let It Roll that we headed to Japan for the Japan Jam.
Yep.
So having them, and what happened was Bryn Arns was producing. He goes, "This sounds like a fucking TKO song." I said, "I know." He goes, "Can you get Rick and Evan?" And I went, "Yeah." So we ended up basically just hijacking that tune, and it really is, for all intent and purpose, it's a TKO song. But it's flying under Angels of Dresden.
Right. Okay.
So,
yeah. So you're.
But Evan and Rick and I have been discussing not just doing a reunion thing, but we've had some offers from Europe, and we're looking into maybe by next summer putting out some music and backing it up with a European tour.
That'd be awesome. That would be really, really cool.
Well, we played together since 7th grade. You know, we were 13 years old when we started playing together. We literally grew up, you know, everything from the Beatles to the Stones to the Animals to Alice Cooper, Led Zeppelin. You know, we just went through all those phases. And then, you know, we ended up, you know, riding the gravy train of big corporate rock and experience that together. And, you know, you can't, I could go out and get some hired guns to do that, but there's just something that clicks when you've got that kind of chemistry.
It's more like a family feeling, I guess. You've known those guys for so long. I can imagine it would feel more like a family.
There's just a reliability that you know everybody, you know what to expect out of them, and there's just a musical interaction that happens just based on the longevity of the relationship.
Yeah. Well, I'm really hoping that we get to see some TKO action live on the internet at some time in the next 12 months. That'll be really good. Now, we spoke the other day, I was talking about the original masters for the albums of TKO, and you ran through a story about how you got them back. Did you want to just run through that again? About the masters?
Yeah, Rick Kiefer, who produced In Your Face, had all the 2-inch masters to not only In Your Face and Below the Belt, because his studio was where Let It Roll, the first album, was recorded.
Yep.
The vault, when it was packed up to move from Seattle to Hawaii, he ended up with the masters to the first TKO album.
Right, okay.
So he and I had a falling out years ago.
Yep.
And, you know, it was on my bucket list, you know, because above all, he was a good friend, but, you know, sometimes things get misunderstood, and we had a falling out.
Yep.
Never apologized. Then I heard he dropped dead of a heart attack.
Yeah.
So I was bummed about that, but, you know, he was not the kind of person that would have let go of those masters without getting something in his pocket.
Yep.
And so his wife, of course, takes over the business. But 6 weeks ago, I get a message saying that his wife had passed away. The family is at the recording facility wanting to know if I want the masters.
Yep.
And immediately I said, yes.
Please.
And, okay, where do I send them? So far, I've received most of In Your Face and most of Below the Belt. As of yet, Let It Roll is missing, but in further communication with Kiefer's engineer, there is one more palette that's missing, and I should be hearing on the results of that by next week.
Wow.
So we might have the entire thing ready for remixing.
So you're thinking about re-releasing each album and putting it out, or are you looking at maybe doing a TKO greatest hits and putting just all the best stuff on one album?
looking at all those options right now.
Yep. And
you know, and who's interested, and all those tapes are going to have to go through the baking process, which of course frightens the hell out of me.
yeah,
You have to put them in an oven at 400 degrees for 3.9 seconds, and if you go a millisecond over, they're gone for the ages. You know, that kind of technology.
oh no.
Which everybody tells me is perfected now, and everybody's doing it, so I'm less worried.
Yeah, yeah,
But my biggest hope is that we can get into Let It Roll.
yeah,
And I was talking to Pierce about it. I go, can you imagine getting rid of the fluff and taking it back to the Marshalls and the big bass and the big drums and reconstruct it?
yeah, yep. That would definitely be interesting. It would definitely give it a different scope, and that'd be great if you're able to do that. Okay, the final question. How is it? Are you living back in Seattle?
No, I'm in Yakima.
Yakima, that's in the Washington area, though.
If you look at a map
Yep.
of the state of Washington, which is on the west coast of the U.S.,
Yep.
the northwestern sector, you'll see Seattle there over near the coast. I am dead center in the state.
Right.
So this is where I was born and raised.
Yep.
Probably 75,000 people.
Right. Okay. Very small.
And Seattle, I can't stand going there because Microsoft has taken it over. It's not the town that I knew that it was dear and near to my heart. It's overgrown with a bunch of techies, and so I go over there only to do music stuff.
Yeah. Not fair enough.
And this is also where Rick Pierce and Evan Sheely were born and raised, you know. So they're coming back here, you know, every couple of months, and we're getting together. And I'm like, when are you guys going to get out of there and come home?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we shall see.
Right. Wicked. Well, Brad, we'll have to finish it there, mate, because I've got to get ready to go to work. But it's been awesome talking to you, and I'll keep in touch with you over Facebook anyway, and I'll keep you up. I'll keep you updated to when the interview is going to go up on the website and all that kind of stuff. I think it might end up going up as an audio. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
Beautiful. All right, mate. Well, you have a good summer day over there in Washington.
Yeah. And